Welcome to this episode of the Triple F podcast. Jim Hochberg here with Eva. So today we're going to look at, well, what does the rest of the world think about Hawaii's abortion law and practice? Let's see what they say. Well, hey, Eva.
Hey, Jim, can I answer your question that you asked in the opening?
Sure.
Hawaii is a beautiful place, so they can come over here, have an abortion, and then go to the beach after and relax.
So that's what Planned Parenthood of the mainland would say. But what we're interested in is, what does Americans United for Life think about Hawaii? Now, one thing I want to say before we get into that is, the chief legal officer of Americans United for Life is Steve Aden. And he grew up here, and he was a young lawyer here. And we sent him off decades ago to the mainland to go be a lawyer in D.C. and Virginia. And now he's doing big things, and I'm happy about that.
No, I like to see his name on things, too, because it makes me feel very good. But can I correct myself? Because I made a big boo-boo 2 weeks ago when we were talking about abortion. And I want to make sure that our listeners and viewers, I'm sure you do. You'll use it against me later. That's how you roll. No, I want to make sure that listeners know that I'm willing to say, hey, I made a mistake, and I want to correct what I said.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Gestational viability.
Yeah, I think I said it was 16, and actually Hawaii allows abortions up until the point of viability, which is usually 24 to 26 weeks.
And the other person on the show on that episode actually got it right. It was me.
The Holy Spirit knew that, and but
okay. So let's talk about Americans United.
Yes.
So tell me about it.
So Americans United for Life, every year they put out a report card that basically tells everybody where their state is on the life issue. And I have to laugh because you and I have been tracking this report card for years, and I do not think we have ever not been in the bottom 5. I mean, I'm racking my brain.
I have no recollection of it ever going. Well, no, we're 46 out of 50.
I remember one year we were 49. So should we be happy that we are now listed at 46? I don't know. But I think that you and I decided that we wanted to do this show for a couple of reasons. The first one is because we wanted our viewers and listeners to understand, again, we're rattling the cage like we always do, that Hawaii is a strongly pro-choice state when it comes to the legislature, the way the legislature is made up.
They're not pro-choice. They're pro-abortion. Because the choice not to get the vaccination,
Jim, I know that, and
was not pro-choice.
I know that, and you know that, but I'm using the verbiage that is being thrown out there so that our
but they're not pro-choice because the vaxxers showed that. They're pro-abortion.
And I will tell you, putting on, the hat of the other side right now, they would say that you cannot bring up that as a choice issue because one is it's
a choice. It's English.
No, but the difference is whether one person can make 1,000 people sick and possibly die, and one is just a choice and the baby within them. That's what they'll say. I do not. Please do not send me angry emails.
It's a choice. It's like, do I want Wheaties or Cheerios?
They say it's not the same thing. They say it's apples and oranges, and they absolutely despise it when you bring it up.
But they're not pro-choice.
Okay, all right. But anyway, the point is that so we're always listed very low on this, and you and I, when we're down at the Capitol, there's only a few voices at the Capitol.
And they're not pro-school choice either. I'm going to keep thinking of these as we go along.
I never know what you think about things. You know that? You're just so quiet. I always have to get things out of you, drag things out of you. But in any case, when we're down at the Capitol...
They're not Second Amendment pro-choice either.
Okay. I'm just going to be quiet while Jim names all the ways they're not pro-choice.
No, okay. So the interesting thing is this report card was looking at how broad or narrow are the protections for women and unborn children under the state law. And they did all the states. And Hawaii's report at number 46 out of 50, it says Hawaii lacks the most basic protections for women and unborn children, which is true.
Planned Parenthood or Guttmacher Institute does a report card as well. And I believe that Hawaii has an A-. Now,
correct. It's at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. So, you just have to look at who is doing these statistics. So in other words, people on the life side, or that say they're pro-life, are going to be lamenting our laws.
Correct.
Whereas
we should
people,
be. Yes.
whereas people on the other side of the spectrum are rejoicing in our laws. And what does the Bible say? When good men are in leadership, the people rejoice.
Correct.
And if people that aren't so good are in leadership, what
We
do?
lament.
They lament.
There's a whole book in the Bible on that.
Yes, and for those that came to our workshop at One Love back in October, I talked about that.
You
and
did.
So people that will have been there will remember that I brought that up. So
I want to take the whole book of Lamentations and I want to set it to blues music.
well, you and I, and okay, we were talking about doing a show on this. So let's take a very quick segue and then we'll come back. You and I both read the book, The Return of the Gods.
I'm still reading it.
Okay, so
I'm a slow reader because I get a few minutes here and there.
okay, but you've read enough to get the gist.
I'm not halfway through.
Oh, yeah. So you have the gist. So those of you who know Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the book The Harbinger, will know that he has a new book out called The Return of the Gods. And Jim and I were talking about doing a show on that as kind of like a book report kind of thing.
And we'd like him to be on the show. So, Mr. Cahn, if you're watching, call us.
Yeah, even though our numbers are small, we have big job to do, with the small numbers. But anyway,
we have a big God in charge.
What did the people who worshipped Baal, or not actually, it wasn't Baal actually,
Molech.
It was Molech. In the Old Testament, when people were worshiping Molech, what did they do?
Well, they took born infants and sacrificed them in the fire.
They did. And the other thing that they did is they purposely had babies that they could give up to this god.
Well,
So,
I didn't remember that part.
yeah. Well, it's,
How would he know why
you
they
get
had
pregnant.
babies?
No, the person that would sacrifice would get pregnant on purpose so that they would have something to sacrifice. And the other thing that was interesting, he talked about how the rich people would actually use poor people's babies so that they could not,
or deformed or
yeah, so
skinny or whatever.
Okay, and I know that some listeners are going, okay, what the heck does that have to do? Sacrificing your babies before the altar of a god is very similar to what us pro-life people believe happens.
I think that's what abortion is, because for all the same reasons, you want to be prosperous.
Well, that's what the argument is, right?
Exactly.
A lot of these women say that I have to do this because
can't
financially,
afford it.
or the worst one is, well, we can't bring this baby in the world because then it'll suffer domestic violence and poverty. And I'm thinking, wait, what? I know that somebody facing, I don't want to minimize that feeling that a girl has when she has to make that choice, because I've known people that had to make that choice, and it's a difficult decision. It is. So I'm not trying to minimize that, but I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that, your prosperity is based on this child that you have within your womb. It's depressing for me.
But that assumes historical understanding never existed. And the historical understanding prior to, I would say, the late 1800s, early 1900s, was that the purpose of having sex was to get pregnant, to have children, for the reason that we have children, to continue the population, to help with the farm, whatever. And what is it that happened 100 and something years ago, 120 something years ago? Well, science came up with artificial birth control. That kind of got rid of the original reason for having sex, which was to get pregnant. So now, 120 years later, we're having abortions for convenience.
And at the risk of getting ridiculed, what is the 100% absolute way that you do not get pregnant?
Chastity belt.
Abstinence.
Abstinence.
Yeah. I mean, so let's think about that for a moment.
Correct.
I know I'm going to be ridiculed by people because people today cannot say no, Jim. It's impossible because you have to follow your instincts, right? But no, let's think about this. If you choose not to, you're a 16-year-old girl and you choose, I am not going to have sex. Guess what you're not going to get?
Pregnant.
And guess what else you're not going to get? STDs. You're also not going to get, because once you have sex and you give away that part of yourself, I mean, some people can decide to wait again. I mean, and I do know a few strong women and men that have done that. But for the most part, once you go down that road, you think, what the heck?
That's true.
And pressure. you know, a lot of youth groups and youth group leaders will tell you that kids, they suffer pressure once they say yes, because then it's like, well, you
You
said
don't
yes.
like me?
You said yes last week, you know.
Yeah.
So the 100% way to
That's
keep
true.
yourself out of this is to choose to abstain. And I get that it's hard, and I get that you're bombarded every day with pornography images and encouragement from teachers and encouragement from friends. But you know what? I think that there's some strong people out there that can say no and can choose to say no. And
Yeah.
I want to give you some props.
Yep, I agree. So this Americans United for Life thing is actually very interesting because they have a series of not really questions, but standards. And then they grade our civilization here out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And let's talk about those things.
Okay, let's go. Let's start with number 1. Go ahead.
Number 1, mother-child gestational and procedural protections. States can protect both mother and child by limiting abortion by gestational age, which is the old how many weeks, or prohibiting gruesome abortion methods, which is the slice and dice, cut them up, or the birth them and stick them in the back of the neck.
Right.
Okay, so this category includes life-saving care requirements for a child born alive after an abortion and health and safety requirements for women undergoing the chemical abortion. So that's the category. How did Hawaii rate?
I don't have it in front of me. You're going to have to do it.
Oh, well, that's boring. Here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, so how did Hawaii rate?
It's right here.
Hawaii has gestational protections by age and week for preborn children. So
Correct,
this is
because
one time we actually have
This is
a
why
good
we're all
mark.
46 and not 50.
Right. Okay.
So you want to read the next section and then
Yeah.
pass it to me and I'll look
well,
at the graph?
while we're doing that, I'm going to see if I can get
Okay.
a copy of it.
So the other choices that Hawaii didn't have on this topic is basic medical care for infant children born alive during attempted abortions. In Hawaii, that is not a standard. Partial birth abortion ban. We don't have that. Although a viable live abortion is supposedly not permitted in Hawaii. The D&E abortions, which is the dismemberment abortion, pre-viability, is also not banned in Hawaii, which means they do the D&E abortions here. We don't have a ban on telemedicine abortions in Hawaii. And we also don't have follow-up scheduled meetings with patients with the abortion bill complications. Those 5 things are in some states sometimes, but not here. Did you find it?
No.
Okay, you want to do the second one?
All right. So this one is prenatal non-discrimination, or PRENDA, as they call it, protections. And these are laws to protect unborn babies from eugenics abortions based on gender. Okay, how can they do that, Jim? How can they abort a baby by gender? I thought there is no gender. I'm confused. Help me out,
Maybe
Jim.
the
Help
baby
me
knows
out.
what its gender is and it has a little sign that says abort me.
They said these mean doctors are assigning genders to them. So I'd like to know how this. Okay, well, anyway.
No, the babies must be self-defining. That's the way it works.
Well, let's just say and use this against them that if they're making these choices based on the baby's gender, then they don't even believe their own rhetoric.
Well, we know they don't anyway because they're crazy.
All right. Well, anyway, this is eugenic abortions based on I'm dying here, based on gender, disability, or race. So now some states provide life-affirming resources for families who receive a diagnosis of possible genetic anomaly like Down syndrome. Now, I will tell you, here in Hawaii, we have tried to introduce a bill to protect Down syndrome babies from abortion, and they won't even hear that
nope,
bill.
They won't hear it because abortion is a sacrament to the Democratic Party in Hawaii. It's a religious experience, and they can't do anything with it.
No,
we have to elect different people.
So we do not have protections against discrimination based on gender, if there is such a thing as gender.
There is. The babies have little signs.
I'm telling you, this is their language. Protection against discrimination due to a prenatal diagnosis. And I have heard about this, that if you think your child is not going to survive outside of the womb, there are people that choose to end
Do you
their
know
baby's
that
life.
my wife and I have a friend that she was pregnant and the doctor said that the baby wasn't likely to survive. And she went through the whole pregnancy and she gave birth. And I think it lasted several hours and then it passed away, but she was holding it the whole time. And for her, that was amazing.
Well, I'm telling you, every woman who has had the joy of giving birth and holding that baby
Or guys.
in your arms, or guys, but not guys who have given birth.
And not guys named Loretta.
Okay, all right. I'm confusing myself trying to stay up with their language. So, all right. Now we do have, we do not have protection against discrimination based on race. So again, that means that every single person in the world should be mad that people are killing babies because of their race.
So Leon Siu, who is a very old friend of ours, recently I spoke with him about where can we find the demographic data on race by abortions in Hawaii. And what he said was the last time it was made available by the Department of Health was in the 90s. And 60% of Hawaiian pregnancies were ending in abortion under those numbers, those statistics. That's amazing.
Well,
that's terrible.
Here in Hawaii, we have such a diverse culture, right? So you have to consider that there are Native Hawaiian babies that are being aborted. Native Hawaiian babies now. I will tell you, with how sacred the Eevee is, if I was a Native Hawaiian activist, I would be like, wait a second, how are you disposing of these children? Because the Eevee is extremely sacred.
And for those of you that don't hear well, she's not saying Eva.
I'm saying Eevee, and then so those are bones. For those of you that are not from
Eva's
from
not that sacred.
So, but anyway, so
Yes.
these are things we have to look at. There are Filipino babies being aborted.
Sure.
Portuguese, Chinese, Japanese. These are
Ohio.
all, these
Girls
are
all the way coming from Ohio.
Well,
according to that
they're
news
white
story.
babies. Who cares about them?
Well, they may not be. Boy, listen to you.
I'm quoting what I'm hearing across the nation. This is not coming
Informed
from me.
consent laws. Let's just move right on. Wow.
Don't send me any heat mail. That too. Don't send me any heat mail or hate mail, because I am opposed to abortion 1,000 times.
So
and I'm
listen
opposed
to
to
this,
all of
though.
this.
This is one thing that does burn me up, because we should be able to get these protections and we can't. We have to elect different people in the state legislature. And the topic is informed consent laws. Many states, not Hawaii, require a woman to give informed consent to an abortion, which holds abortion to a similar standard as other medical procedures. These protections include the disclosure of an abortion procedure's nature and risk, the performance of an ultrasound to date the pregnancy and allow a woman to meet her unborn child if she chooses, and the time for a woman to reflect on that grave decision. So in Hawaii, we strike out no basic informed consent from others concerning abortion, no patient signed or written confirmation of informed consent from the provider. Patient is not provided state-sponsored informed consent website information. There's no reflection period, 24 hours, protecting a mother's discernment and choice. No ultrasound requirement to give the mother the opportunity to meet her child in the womb. No information on risk of abortion procedures, and no information on the possibility of abortion pill reversal care. Hawaii is terrible on informed consent. We can't even get... So you're next.
I found it.
We can't even get the legislature to require the minor child abortion after 14 years old to have to get the consent of her parents.
Well, and I think, that's because of some of the laws we have here about
well, that's what
medical.
I'm saying. We can't get the legislature to provide parents with that information.
No, and it's a sad thing. And I'll tell you what's even more sad. Some of those things you mentioned in there are the very things that our pregnancy resource centers are doing. They're doing the ultrasounds. They're giving information on the abortion pill reversal. And here's the thing. They're trying to do that, and they are allowed to do that, but because of this, because we don't promote this here, they're attacked by Planned Parenthood for doing so.
Correct.
And I think that it's very sad. So the next one is abortion reporting, and this is the thing that drives me absolutely crazy.
Yep.
Again, we say abortion is legal in the state of Hawaii. People can go and get an abortion. Young girls 14 and 15 can go get abortions without parental consent. This is our laws here, right? So here in Hawaii, we strike out on abortion reporting. So there is no basic reporting on instances of abortion. They will tell you they're doing it. And maybe
the law
they are
requires
somewhere.
it.
And maybe somewhere they
But we
are.
can't find
but,
it.
Well, and I even put a couple of legislators to task on this, and they couldn't get it either. So let me tell you, it's not that easy to get.
And in this email from the Americans United for Life, they said they did a Freedom of Information Act request
No
to the
response.
DOH, and there was no response.
Crickets is what they heard.
Yeah.
Crickets, right? I can't do the cricket sound. Otherwise, I would do it. Abortion reporting. This includes gestational age data. It includes demographic information. It includes reporting about the procedure type. It includes complications reporting. And anonymized aggregate data is made available to the public.
It's not made available to the public.
Well, that's why they're giving us a check mark. But here's, again, what's interesting about this. How do we know if a 13-year-old girl goes and gets an abortion?
Well, see, now that's the thing. The law requires in the state of Hawaii that if a crime has been committed in the pregnating of a girl, because she's not an adult, she's not 16, she's under 14, there's a
21.
lot of these different levels of crime. If her pregnancy that's being
Are they
aborted
reporting it?
is the result of the commission of a crime, state law in Hawaii requires the clinic to report it.
And
they don't.
we'd like to know that.
We would like to know
We'd
that.
like to know,
Can't find it.
are there human trafficking victims, sex trafficking victims that are being forced into an abortion by their handlers? We do not know. Again, they might be getting the information, but they're not providing it. So there is two different aspects we're talking about.
My guess is that they're not asking the pertinent information. Like, remember, after Dobbs, there was a physician in Ohio that, or in Indiana, who said she did an abortion on an underage girl from Ohio because Ohio's had that immediate outlawing of abortion after Dobbs. And the question was, did you report it as a crime? And of course, she said no. And then the investigative reporting determined that it was the girl's mother's live-in illegal alien boyfriend who'd been having sex with her regularly and made her pregnant. So,
So again, we can talk all day about how we're opposed to abortion, and we have, and we're on record, we're opposed to abortion. But we are talking about what's part of Hawaii law right now, and is it being followed? It is as simple as that. And you know what? What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. And if they're going to come down on the pregnancy resource centers for not providing reporting, which they do, we've heard it at the Capitol, then why are they not asking the same thing of Planned Parenthood?
Because they're friends.
And I don't care.
We have to elect. I don't care. We have to replace the state legislature with people that are pro-life if we want to change the laws.
That's right. Okay, next section.
And you're going to be voting now.
No, they've already voted.
Well,
so we know.
Hopefully you voted for pro-life people in the ledge, and when we get the results, we know who it is.
Well, if you remember, we did that with Fritz.
Correct.
Last week. So we did talk about that. But you and I will continue to talk about what's happening at the legislature, though, and what's coming down based on who was elected. Okay.
So we're running out of time. We can skip parental rights because I kind of did that already.
Yeah.
Basic health and safety standards.
Let's talk about that because, again, what's good for the goose, right?
Okay. So according to Americans United for Life, basic health and safety standards for abortion. These laws bring abortion businesses up to the health and safety standards of medical facilities. States may limit both chemical and surgical abortion procedures to physicians, require the physician to be licensed by the state, and require emergency transfer agreements or admitting privileges for the physician or the facility giving the abortion to protect the patient if she suffers post-abortion complications. Now, we read the law. You do have to be licensed and it has to be in a facility, but they don't have in Hawaii the admission and transfer agreement. So go ahead and read the answers.
So this is what they're claiming we do not have. We do not have established health and safety standards for abortion businesses. If we do have them, they are not easily found, and we should be able to find this. This should be a searchable item on the Department of Health website.
It should.
Basic regulatory inspections for abortion business should be available on the website. We should be able to see that they passed or failed.
The Gosnell movie, they probably don't want inspections because that's how you find out that grisly stuff.
Well, I guess so. Now, I have a question on this because I don't believe this is accurate with Hawaii law. They're saying that only physicians can perform abortions, but I thought we passed the law here saying advanced practice registered nurses could do it.
Did that pass? Because I think it passed for physician-assisted suicide.
No, it didn't pass on assisted suicide.
So it did pass
That's
on
what
abortion.
I'm saying. But
I'm
the
confused.
law, I'm confused too because it's not updated in Hawaii revised statutes. So for those of you listening and viewing, we're going to look into that and we will get back to you. Physicians required to be licensed in the state. Well, that's true for any kind of medical practice here in the state.
But we didn't get a check mark. We got an X. So
right.
I got to
so we're
call
not
Mr.
doing
Aiden because the law does require that it be done by a physician
that's what
or
I mean.
a nurse or something. So I guess what they're saying is you don't have to be a physician.
Well, and maybe
you can be somebody else.
maybe because this is under safety standards. So
Correct.
maybe what they're saying is there's no way to verify this information in Hawaii. There's no easy access to the information. So we'll double check. Emergency transfer admitting privileged patient protections and physician license credentials are disclosed to patients. I have a feeling that is happening here, but I'm just going based on what the Americans United for Life are saying. Now, do we have, because we only have a couple minutes left, let's find something positive, Jim. Let's go to the fetal homicide and wrongful death, because we do get one green check mark there. So
I actually saw this when I was looking at the scorecard, and I called Steve because I know him, and I said, "Are you sure we have that? I can't find it in the statutes." And he said it was a case. So I looked it up in a case, and by golly, we had a case in 2018.
And what are we talking about?
Castro
a case of what?
versus Melchor. So this is kind of a stretch, but every legal case is based on its own weird facts.
Right.
So this case was about a woman that was going to prison in Hawaii at OCCC, and she was pregnant. She didn't tell anybody she was pregnant, and she didn't have any prenatal stuff before she was incarcerated. And so anyway, she had a stillborn baby in prison. And so her family sued, including on behalf of the baby that wasn't born alive, because that baby lost some legal rights that it would have had, like being with family and stuff like that. And so the Hawaii Supreme Court said that under our wrongful death statute, this woman's family could sue on behalf of the damage to the stillborn baby. I didn't actually realize that was, we should do a whole show on that because it's way more complicated than the minute we have
Okay, then
left.
we will definitely do that. Let's put that on the docket to talk about. So we are actually running out of time. If you want to read the whole report card, then you can find the link on the Hawaii Family Forum YouTube channel. Look for this particular episode and you'll see all the, anytime Jim and I talk about resources for those of you listening on the radio, if you want to check, you can go to Hawaii Family Forum's website. We have a tab there that you can find us on YouTube, and all of these resources are listed there. So you want to make sure you do that. And Jim and I, we're going to stay on this because as we move into the legislative session in January, there are going to be bills coming forward. We want to make sure that we're giving the proper information, that it's correct. And if we make a mistake, like I did at the beginning of the show, we will always own that. Although Jim will claim that he never makes mistakes. No, I did that to you once before, and you go, I admit that I make mistakes.
But I just want to thank everybody for electing all those fabulously pro-life legislators.
And we will also keep talking about that. So thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know about this. Sponsor the show. Send me an email. Say hello. Comment. And we will see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.
Sponsor does mean send money to pay for the cost of the show. We'd love you to do it. Aloha.
Aloha.